I finally exposed my husband's web of lies in a way he could never twist or deny. And it all started when I realized he was systematically trying to make me believe I was going crazy. My story has unfortunately attracted some unwanted attention online. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading completely false claims. They've painted me as a deadbeat who doesn't work, claiming my husband, Leo, has to work 2 jobs just to support me. One particularly vicious fabrication involves a supposed neighbor, who they claim is a good friend of ours, saying I've been sleeping around and have already moved in with one of the men I allegedly had an affair with. Let me be perfectly clear, none of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we aren't friends with any of our neighbors. I have never cheated on Leo. I have my own job, and I actually make slightly more than he does, just $1 an hour difference, but it's a fact nonetheless. I can only suspect these are either random internet trolls or, more likely, Leo's friends, sent on a mission to make me regret ever speaking out. What matters most is that I am safe. I'm currently staying with my family, and that's all I'm prepared to share about my location for now. I am working closely with my lawyer to ensure our safety, and that's as much as I can disclose about those proceedings. The core of this nightmare wasn't just his infidelity or his cruelty, it was his relentless attempt to unravel my mind. For the longest time, whenever I tried to talk to Leo about my feelings, he would make me feel like I was going crazy. Any concern I raised, any emotion I expressed, was immediately dismissed. He'd belittle what I felt and twist my words until I began to second-guess my own thoughts. It started with small things. I'd come home from work, exhausted, to find the house full of people he had invited over without a word to me. When I'd pull him aside and ask why he didn't tell me, he'd look at me with feigned innocence and insist he had mentioned it earlier that morning. He'd be so convincing that I'd stand there, racking my brain, wondering how I could have forgotten an entire conversation. Another time, I planned a special meal and specifically asked him to pick up a certain dish on his way home. He came back with something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he argued that I was the one who was confused, that I must have forgotten my own request. Leo thought he was being clever, slowly chipping away at my reality. He was completely unaware that with every lie, he was pushing me closer not to madness, but to a moment of absolute clarity that would ultimately lead to his downfall. The manipulation seeped into every corner of our life. He would brazenly take credit for tasks that I had done myself. He'd claim he had been the one to handle a household chore when I knew for a fact that I was the one who took care of it. When I would point this out, holding up my own recollection as evidence, he'd just dismiss it, calmly insisting that he had done it and my memory was failing me. Even in serious conversations about our relationship, he would flat out deny things he had said or done. I'd bring up issues I had with his mother's behavior, and he'd respond, "You never mentioned that before, you're just being overdramatic." This constant invalidation made me question everything. Was I truly discussing these problems, or was I just imagining it? Was I really overreacting to everything? It reached a terrifying point where I became convinced that I had early-onset dementia or perhaps even schizophrenia. I felt utterly lost and confused, struggling to distinguish between the solid ground of reality and Leo's fabricated version of events. My desperation led me to start documenting our interactions in a journal, just to keep a private record of what was actually happening. But even when I had clear, written evidence, Leo would find a way to twist it, looking at my notes and saying, "You must be misremembering things." It was at that moment, a commenter on my original post perfectly articulated what I was experiencing. "My dear OP, you have just given the classic definition of gaslighting. When someone dismisses your feelings, tells you you're being dramatic and tries to twist the facts to make you question what you know to be true by saying it never happened, or you're misremembering things." Reading those words was a lifeline. I wasn't going crazy. I was being manipulated, feeling so powerless in private. I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a form he couldn't control or manipulate. I needed to create a clear, unchangeable record of what had happened. Posting about my experiences was a terrifying but crucial step in reclaiming my own voice. It was how I started to take back my own narrative after doubting myself for so long. Since I left, not much has changed on his end. Leo is clearly desperate. He and my mother-in-law have had complete meltdowns, launching separate but coordinated smear campaigns against me. My mother-in-law has been spreading the most hurtful lies, claiming I'm an unfit mother and have abandoned my responsibilities. This reveals Leo's greatest fatal flaw, his utter dependence on a manipulated narrative. When he could no longer control my perception of reality, his only recourse was to try and control everyone else's, a desperate gamble that only exposed his own weakness. I don't plan to engage with these claims publicly. Instead, I am quietly collecting all the evidence I have. The irony is, his mother has nothing to back up her accusations, while I have everything to back up mine. So, no, Leo, this is not going to be a he said, she said situation. His behavior online has been just as erratic. He deleted his Reddit account, claiming it was because one person had discovered his identity, but then he told me a contradictory story about how a bunch of people had sent him death threats, which seems highly unlikely. He did, however, send his friends to my post, and I believe they are the source of some of the unsavory DMs and comments I've received. Allegedly, one commenter had a stark warning for these friends. He's been projecting his insecurities onto you for so long he's freaking out that he has no one else to blame for his own glaring failures. To every flying monkey of Leo's, so, which one of you is next to be the guy's emotional punching bag? Don't worry, it won't be long before he's blaming all of you. It'll start with him accusing one guy of not being supportive enough, then he'll go after whoever defends that guy. The whole friendship group will implode because nothing you do will ever satisfy an abusive self-obsessed AH. You've been warned. For any women who find themselves in my situation, especially when dealing with a shared lease, please consult with a pro bono lawyer specializing in rental rights. That's what I did, and they can offer advice specific to your region. Because we had both signed the lease and completed the minimum rental period, I was able to work directly with my landlords, a lovely older couple, to arrange my departure. So don't be scared, or rather, you can be scared, but know there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, run a credit check on yourself immediately. I did, and it revealed another issue I am now addressing. This journey is far from over. I know it will be difficult for a while as I ride out the smear campaigns, but I also know they will eventually die down. I am documenting everything, creating the paper trail I need to move forward. Leo's manipulative behavior is out in the open now. He can't alter the facts anymore, and I am finally doing the right thing for me and my baby girl. The story shows that the most insidious abuse can be the quietest, chipping away at your reality until you doubt your own mind. Reclaiming your truth starts with documentation and finding a voice that your abuser cannot silence. Have you ever had to fight to make someone else acknowledge a truth they were determined to deny? Share your experience in the comments below.